Should we now begin feeling bad for Blake Lively because she appeared at her Simple Favor 2 premiere, and people are noting that she seems increasingly uncomfortable and anxious, and maybe it really is just a lot for her to deal with. So we should discuss that. Should we be more compassionate toward Blake Lively? Let's jump right into this. Welcome back to Candace. Quickly want to at first give you my opinion on Blake Lively's appearance at the Simple Favor 2 premiere, South by Southwest premiere. There she is alongside Anna Kendrick. And I should say first and foremost, regarding Anna Kendrick, we already knew that she was somewhat upset leading up to this premiere for obvious reasons. I mean, you imagine you work your butt off, you're in this movie, you're fighting with Blake Lively about who should be more prominently featured on all of the materials and the advertisements, because I guess that's a thing, like where you're featured on the movie poster. And Blake Lively wants to be prominently featured, and then she gets herself into this huge situation worldwide. She is sort of despised alongside her husband. And now you've got to recognize that this movie's probably not going to do so well because people are just not going to watch a movie with Blake Lively in it. And the rumors were that she felt that Blake Lively didn't do anything to dispel that. She didn't come out and make a statement. She didn't come out, with her heart in her hand or say anything. She just kind of allowed this movie to be like an innocent bystander to everything that went on with It Ends With Us. It Ends With Us, pardon. So leading up to this red carpet, all eyes were kind of on Blake. People were wondering if she was going to bring Ryan. I said, definitely not. That's not going to happen. Obviously, she's adjusting and she's realizing what a bad decision SNL was. People don't like Ryan Reynolds, especially. So she did show up alone. And when Anna Kendrick was asked about Blake Lively on the red carpet, she was a bit pithy, and I would say maybe trying to be funny, but definitely made a statement when she was asked about working with Blake. Take a listen.
Anna, what does it mean to be working with Blake again?
Oh, talking about you.
Just, sort of a thing. And there were tons of rumors that, by the way, on the first movie, they didn't get along fantastically. Obviously, they got along enough for them to do the second movie. But you can sense that she's a little bit annoyed, and she knows that a lot of questions are going to be coming her way about Blake Lively. And specifically, when she was asked directly by a reporter about everything that was going on, she definitely gave a very cutthroat answer. Here's what she had to say.
Yeah, so now the other thing I want to ask you, how do you feel like how does it feel like the movie's being impacted kind of by everything happening around going on in the world?
Why, what happened? I did ayahuasca and the last year of my life is just gone, but I've heard the movie's amazing.
Wait, thank you.
So I thought it was really interesting, and I'm not sure if anybody has pointed this out yet, that she chose to say ayahuasca and that she couldn't remember anything as her reason as to why she can't respond to this. And I was wondering whether or not that was potentially a nod to the now infamous skit where Ryan Reynolds directed the promo of It Ends With Us, brought his mother, and had Brandon Sklenar there. And Brandon Sklenar, I guess, was supposed to be the Justin Baldoni, and said that he had taken a lot of ayahuasca. That just kept happening throughout the skit, and we weren't sure why they were focusing on ayahuasca. It was quite strange. Take a listen, just jogging your memory here.
My heart is beating like crazy right now. This reminds me of when I went on that meth journey, confront my inner child.
And I wasn't a meth journey. I think you mean like ayahuasca, South American plant known for its medicinal benefits. Definitely not meth. You should not be doing a meth journey.
I've been on a meth journey for about 6 months now.
I mean, I'm not a doctor, but you're probably going to die.
I don't feel well.
You don't look well.
I was expecting not to like him.
Oh, yeah.
But he is so nice.
The nicest guy.
So
Everyone says
funny,
you're nice, but
charming,
he's-
kind.
Yeah.
What a wonderful guy.
What is ayahuasca?
So I was wondering if she said that on purpose. We will obviously never know the answer to that. But what we do know is that there has definitively been a noticeable transition in Blake Lively's public demeanor, right? We're kind of used to seeing, and pardon my language here, but we're very used to seeing like a bitchy Blake, right? She's very unkind to reporters. And genuinely, I think that there's just a lack of a better word there. She seems to hate the press junkets over the years. She barely seems to enjoy her fans. She kind of thinks that she's above her fans, thinks she's above the press, and is just always rude, right? But throughout these last two public appearances, since everything has kind of been falling apart for her and Ryan, she does seem, and I will agree, admittedly very uncomfortable. And I said that immediately when she was on the red carpet with Ryan. He didn't, obviously, because he is, I think, just a narcissist to his core. But, you know, they chose to walk the red carpet and he was kind of pointing at her and wanting the cameras to capture him and her. And then he notoriously, now we know, wrote another line into that script to sort of mock the circumstances of everything that was going on. But when you zoomed in on her face in that moment and you saw Kevin Costner kind of looking down in that SNL moment, she doesn't look comfortable. She doesn't. She looks anxious. She looks like she doesn't really want to be out in public when she knows that the public does not like her. And we saw this similarly at the event for South by Southwest. Some people are noticing that she's rambling when she's speaking on stage to the point of almost incoherency, rambling to deal with her angst, right? And I'll just give you a sample of that. Take a listen.
What happens in the third one? No, I'm joking. Capri and Rome, honestly. So Paul, we really wanted to make this second movie, and I was like, Paul, he wanted to shoot in Capri, and I was like, that sounds amazing, but it's very expensive, and let's just, shoot in Connecticut. That's where the first one took place. I didn't understand why it needed to be Capri, and now I want to live there. I love it so much. They serve you ice cream and lemons, and it's just magical. And they sell hats. That crazy, beautiful hat was just a hat in a store. Like, humans buy that.
And I'll also add to that, she's definitely rambling and you can sense she's uncomfortable and a lot of hand movements. But I'll also add that even when you see her walking the red carpet, she's suddenly very nice to fans. It's a totally different Blake Lively. And she just seems so grateful for every fan that's coming up to her and asking for a picture and like a hug. We even saw that on the red carpet with SNL. I think it was, I can't think of the woman's last name, Amy. One of my producers will say it in my ear, but when they were speaking and they were hugging and they just sort of looked at each other, and she just seems so much more compassionate now, right? Where you can see that she's had some sort of an internal breakdown. And I noticed that following that ramble session, which was posted on Instagram over and over again, some of the comments in response to it were quite sympathetic to Blake, right? They said that you can really feel her anxiety through the screen. One Instagram user was actually even empathetic to the matter and saying that they similarly ramble when they are on their anxiety meds. And I would not be shocked at all, by the way, if Blake during this moment was taking anxiety meds. I believe truly it is not an act to suggest that Blake Lively is anxious at this moment in time with so much on the line and everything that she feels that she's worked for essentially being wiped out with one case. So the question that people are asking is, should we be the better person? Should we take the Justin Baldoni approach? Should we take a look at this situation, assess the monster that lived inside of her, and show her some compassion, especially because many of us agree that Ryan Reynolds was the leader in this. I believe that. I believe Ryan Reynolds was the leader and is the leader in everything that she does. So should we be compassionate? And the answer is no. My friends, we obviously should not be compassionate. That's not how this works. Okay. When you get caught doing something that is purely evil, the task is not on the people who caught you doing that thing to extend forgiveness to you when you have not asked for forgiveness. That is the important part here, okay? Something that I actually learned from my father-in-law, something my husband always says. When people say, do you forgive that person? The question is, have they asked for forgiveness? And Blake Lively has not. She has not said sorry. She has not even said sorry to the court. She has not dropped the lawsuit. She has not made a statement. She has not apologized to anyone for attempting to execute an act of perfect evil. And she would have gotten away with it. Think of Scooby-Doo. I would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for those meddling kids. We are the meddling kids. This was meant to be an act of evil against a harmless person. She sensed his weakness and she went for it. And yes, I too would be anxious and uncomfortable if the world finally saw me for exactly what I was, right? If I had perfectly curated this idea of me caring about various causes and caring about people, and in reality, I get caught in my own text messages as being a very mean girl who will even use A-list power and the threat of dragons to take somebody down who just wanted to bring forth a movie that they were passionate about, a book that they were passionate about. Taking a book and turning it into a movie because he wanted to tell a story about domestic violence. Okay, so I just want to remind you guys that whenever and if ever you begin to feel an iota of sadness for Blake Lively, I want you to remember all of the things that she did to Justin Baldoni. I want you to revisit the website that Brian Friedman put up. And I want you to read her text messages and how horrific they were, how quickly her and Ryan decided to use the threat of Taylor Swift to take down Justin Baldoni and make him feel like he was powerless in the world of Hollywood. I want you to remember their agents. Baldoni, Baloney, Ari Emanuel, okay, still bullying him after lawsuits have been filed because they view themselves to be that powerful, okay? We're the giants here, and there's nothing that Justin can do about it. And I will promise you that when you recapture that in your own imagination, recapture how Justin Baldoni and his family must have felt realizing that if it wasn't for us meddling kids, okay, if it wasn't for us meddling kids, he would have effectively been branded as a sexual pervert. That would have been the story of Justin Baldoni. We would have been an actor who did a movie, who then moved to direct a movie, and then it was discovered, thanks to the wonderful feminist that Blake Lively is and her wonderful feminist friends who march in songs to take down Katy Perry. Thanks to her, we recognize that actually he was a sexual pervert who both thought she was ugly, but also couldn't look away from her and irresistibly needed to stare at her, him and Justin Heath, when she was breastfeeding, because they're just so into those sorts of things. Who was into a category of porn that nobody has ever heard of, which is a woman giving birth. Realize that they sat down, they made threats in an effort to take over his movie. And when they didn't get what they wanted, they were willing to brand him as a sexual predator via one of the most powerful news organizations in the world, the New York Times. And they were able to do that because of their connections. So, no, the answer to people that are wondering in the comments if you should feel bad because she looks anxious, the answer is no, you shouldn't feel bad, and she should be anxious, okay? After a person goes on a murder spree, to give you an example, and if they're home and they're dumping their clothes and getting rid of all the evidence, and then they hear sirens outside, and they start to feel anxious. We don't go, oh my gosh, I feel so, he's going through a moment of anxiety, recognizing that he might really get caught, that he really might actually have to serve a sentence for this horrific act that he committed. No, we keep marching until she gives us the mea culpa and she recognizes and thinks about the anxiety that his wife must have gone through, recognizing that it was a plausibility that her kids could grow up and believe that their father was a monster, okay? Maybe think about how Justin Baldoni felt when he was in that basement at his own movie premiere. And they were laughing and dancing upstairs, thinking that they had almost done it, that it was almost completed, and that they had taken over his movie. And by the way, if you were on the fence about how involved Blake Lively was, I certainly was at moments going, was this just being driven by Ryan? Was she even on the set when he did these Deadpool things? Was she even aware of the lines that he was writing, since she played Lady Deadpool, but she only did the voiceover and she wasn't actually on set? Did she know that he was going to over-murder him and do all of these horrific, toxic things? Well, we got our answer when somebody on TikTok was able to find that present at that shoot that we just showed you, where he brought his mom in to mock Justin Baldoni and to make fun of him and his background and his family and ayahuasca. Blake Lively was present when that was shot. Here is a backstage at the It Ends With Us Ryan Reynolds promo shoot.
I say, yeah, one to two.
I stopped taking my blood yeah.
It says the one and only Blake Smollett. And for those of you that are listening on the podcast, it is her laughing and speaking. It looks like she's directing almost Ryan's mother to say lines. And we know that she was saying lines about Blake, that Brandon was meant to be Justin Baldoni. And this was really, truly just high school bullying done to the Hollywood extreme. So I don't forgive it. I will not forget it. But when she comes down and asks for an apology, then we can revisit that question.